So now we are going to talk about the another natural resource, that is forest and wildlife. So what is the link to the forest to us? Forest is a very important natural resource. There are so many products from the forest which we use in our daily life. Mainly wood that is used to make paper or furniture that comes from the forest. So forest is an important natural resource. The disturbance to this natural resource or over exploitation of this natural resource, it leads to so many problems. Many of you may think that, of course, I am not connected to the forest produce. I am not concerned to this forest because, of course, some of us may get some alternatives. Everybody of us use forest produce. Sometimes you may take some alternative. You may say that I am not using any wooden furniture, sir. I am using plastic. So I am not dependent on forest produce. I am not using any herbal products. I use all synthetic products. So I am not concerned. But some people that they have connection with the forest. So here when we are discussing the issue about the forest and wildlife, we have to discuss about the stakeholders. Means the people that are connected to the forest. Here we have 4 groups of people. See, who are they? The first one is tribals. Tribals or people who live in forest, who live close to the forest, who are living in the surroundings of forest, who make use of the forest product. At the same time, they contribute for the existence of the forest, for the protection of the forest. Those are the tribals. So they take very important role in conservation of the forest. Of course, they use the forest product, but they do not cause any damage to the forest. So the one thing is tribals. The second one is industrialist. So the industrialists are looking for the forest product. They wanted the wood. They want the teak from the forest. They want the pine from the forest. So they cut off the forest. So in the auction, they buy the land with the trees. They cut all the trees. So once some area is cleared, they go to the other area. They are not bothered what happens to the forest land which is deforested. So that is not their issue. So the second people, those who are connected to the forest, are industrialists. Some people, they wanted some forest land for some industrial purpose, for establishment, or dealing with the sale and purchase of the forest product. Those are the industrialists. The third one is forest department. So this forest department, it has the role of protecting the forest land and forest product. And if we see the other group, nature enthusiasts. Nature enthusiasts. So if you see this, these 3 groups, they have some benefit. Forest department people, while working for the forest, they get some payment as a salary. They are benefited. Tribals, as they are living in the forest, of course, they help the forest. At the same time, they get benefit from the forest. So their livelihood, everything is from the forest products. So tribals, they have benefit, and industrialists, they get very rich profits. They buy all the forest product or wood at very less price, cheaper price. They sell it at a very high price, and so they are very much benefited. So here, the last group, nature enthusiasts, they are not benefited by any way. Only thing is they have the curiosity, they have the interest of protecting the forest. So that is the reason these people are also concerned and connected to this issue, the forest and wildlife. So what is that necessity of conserving the forest and wildlife? So forest, it consists of so many plants. Forest is not a collection of plant and animals. It includes so many organisms. And all these organisms living together, interactions depending on each other. So it creates a diversity, various species living together. So this diversity, it is a symbol of ecological stability. If this diversity is lost, a particular area of forest is cleared, then what happens? Various animals living in that area, they get dispersed and they become extinct, and you may not be able to find those animals again. So we lose biodiversity. So the loss of diversity, it leads to loss of ecological stability. Ecological stability is lost. So the ecological stability is lost. It brings so many disturbances in the food chains, food webs. Certain organisms grow in large number, certain organisms totally disappear. So it leads to disturbance in the food chains. It causes so many problems. So first we are going to talk about the first local people, first group. The local people in the sense, mostly the tribals, the people those who are living in the forest or close to the forest. So in this case, we can find that judicious use of forest resources. These people do not cut the trees indiscriminately. They do not want large amounts of wood for construction of houses. They make small huts that are made with thatch, that is bamboo. They make very small tools for fishing with wood and bamboo. Fishing. And they gather the fruits and nuts. And they collect the firewood. So firewood, they do not cut any trees for firewood. They collect all the sticks, the dried sticks of the dried branches they collect. So these kind of things are collected, fruits and nuts are collected, and they make simple huts with bamboo. And even though they carry out certain kind of agriculture, that is called as jum cultivation, they shift the agricultural land from one place to another place. They do not cut so many trees. And even again they plant the trees. And they see that the diversity of the plants is restored, is retained. That means they do not grow only one kind of trees for commercial benefits. So they do not disturb the diversity there. That is the main thing. And firewood, fishing, they collect honey, that is the product of the forest, fruits and nuts, and they collect the bamboo. So in this way, they collect various products from the forest. This is not over exploitation. At the same time, they contribute for the proper growth of the trees or other plants, other kind of plants, and they know the value of each and every plant, what are its medicinal uses and other purposes. They have a good knowledge of the diversity, or they have good knowledge about the various products of the forest. So even though these local people are living in contact with this forest, the forests were not disturbed. The forest land was not disturbed. The resource was not misused because they were using a judicious use of the forest resources. So they are not expecting more, just they are expecting or taking the things which are just enough for their living. They don't want to make millions and millions of dollars, and they don't want to keep any bank accounts. And they don't want to, they don't have a commercial view of the forest. But later what happened? The Britishers entered into the scenario. So after the Britishers entered, they took most of the land, forest area under their control, and these local people were restricted to small areas. So the small area of forest is allowed to the local people, and the local people are not allowed into the other area which is reserved. So not allowed. And these local people are allowed only to this area. Over exploitation. And the Britishers, they got the commercial view of the forest. They have so many requirements to keep the railway lines in India. So they need a lot of trees. So which type of tree is required? So plant the tree, cut the tree. That led to monoculture. What is this monoculture? Growing a same kind of plant or a tree in particular land. So if it is monoculture, if you find only one kind of tree, you can't call it as a forest. You have to call it as a plantation. How can you say it is a forest? Plantation, similar kind of trees everywhere. There is no diversity. You cannot find different kind of plants, different kind of animals, different kind of organisms there. So that led to that monoculture, growing similar kind of trees, same trees. The trees that have good commercial value are grown there. So what happened here? It led to that over exploitation of the forest land, and it leads to the loss of diversity. So loss of diversity leads to loss of ecological stability. That point we have learnt here. So again, the independent India after freedom. So here let us see what kind of problems are caused by this monoculture, growing only certain trees like eucalyptus, or pine or sababul or sal. If they are growing only this particular kind of trees, then what happens? It leads to loss of diversity. So when it was in the control of local people, different kinds of trees, different kinds of plants are available. Local people are aware of the medicinal value of different plants. So once it goes into that monoculture there, the different variety of herbal plants are disappeared. So we are missing a lot of plants with wonderful medicinal properties, and the knowledge about the plants is also disappeared because of this monoculture. So loss of diversity, loss of knowledge about the medicinal plants. So we are separating the people. We are separating the people from the forest. So what happens? The people get separated. Actually, their life was in contact, intimacy with the forest. They know everything about the forest. So it was in a proper, sustainable manner. But later, when the people are isolated from the forest and the forest is completely under the control of British or completely under the control of government, so what happens? It leads to different methods like monoculture, growing similar kind of trees. It leads to loss of diversity. So again, the industries, they grow only the trees that have high commercial value. They are not bothered about the land. So they grow certain trees, they cut certain trees at a particular place. Again, they go to the faraway place for that product. So they are not bothered about the growth of the new plants in that place. So they are not bothered what kind of effects are caused by this deforestation. So in such a way, it leads to the problems like loss of diversity. So the government recognized that. So when they are doing these kind of activities, it leads to loss of diversity. The government recognized loss of diversity is there. So the government started conservation of forest land. So conservation, initially the government started protecting. Yes, we have to protect that. These animals are becoming extinct. These days we are not able to see the lions. We are not able to see the tigers. We are not able to see the rhinos, elephants. So earlier they started protecting these big animals. But later they identified that it is not only the solution. Just protecting a tiger, just protecting some animal, it doesn't protect the diversity. So they have come to a conclusion that the total diversity has to be restored there. So they made the reserve forests, certain land, the forest with a different kind of animals and all, it is reserved, nobody should enter into that. But here the government, it is excluding the people from that reserve forest. But are these people, local people, are they not part of the forest? If those people are not there, what happens to the forest? So the people are the part of the forest. So when they are interacting with the forest, people are also a natural part of the forest. When the local people, they are interacting with that, the forest products can be properly utilized or used. At the same time, the diversity in the forest is maintained. So according to that, the laws made or the view of the government or the British or even the independent India's view about the forest is that the local people are exploiting the natural resources, and so the local people are kept away from the forests. But here, many of the instances, if we see the many of the instances, the local people, they helped for the conservation of the forest. We can take one instance here, Beshnoi community. So this community, they take part in the conservation of forest. It become a religious tenet in their lives. It's a part of their life, protecting the trees and natural wildlife. So you see that by recognizing this, what was the incident? In 1731, a lady called Amrita Devi, she sacrificed her life along with 363 members in protecting the Kejri trees in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. So this incident, it shows that the local people are very much bound to the forest. So they have a strong bond and relation with the trees and the wildlife in the forest. So they don't have any commercial view or idea about the forest products. They don't want to make crores of rupees from the forest. Simply they get their minimum needs and requirements from the forest. At the same time, they think the forest is their home and they look after the care of the forest. So because of this, every year the Amrita Devi Bishnoi National Award is awarded by the government for the conservation of forest and wildlife. In that area, this award is being given. So this instance shows the part of the people, the bonding of the local people to the forest. But even then, there are certain views that these people are exploiting the forest products. So these people are kept away. But in many other instances, it is proved it is wrong. It is not correct. One more instance we can see here, the prejudice against the traditional use of forest. Traditionally, there are some kind of traditions in which the people take their cattle to the forest to graze the grass. So here in the Great Himalayan National Park, the local people use it to carry their cattle to this Great Himalayan National Park to eat the grass. So the government, it's stopped allowing these people to bring their cattle for grazing. So what happened then? Earlier, when the people used to bring the cattle to the park, the cattle used to eat the grass and it made the grass to bring new shoots. The grass used to grow again and again. But when they stopped bringing the cattle, when they were not allowing the people to take their cattle to this Great Himalayan Park, the grass, it grew very tall and finally it fallen and there is no more fresh growth of grass. So they can consider this kind of things as a natural part. So thinking that this may harm a lot to the forest, it will totally disturb the forest. If that is the view, definitely you should look at the other area also. What is the other area? Why a lot of forest is cleared for setting up some industries? Why a lot of forest is cleared by selling the trees and the forest to some industrialist who is making furniture and selling the forest product at a very high rate? They are not even bothered about what happens to the land in which they cut the trees. So if you compare both the things, the damage caused by the industrialist, the damage caused by the commercial use of forest product and the damage caused by the local people, obviously this is very low and less. In turn, the local people, they have a bonding with the forest. Definitely they contribute for the conservation of the forest. It is a part of their life. So it's all a tradition. They pray. Their gods are nothing but the trees and stones and animals of the forest. Those are their gods and goddesses. So they respect each and every part of the forest. They don't want to destroy it. So conservation of biodiversity, that means not protecting a tiger, not protecting an elephant, not protecting a rhinoceros. It is to protecting the whole, as it is, how it was in a natural setup. If that is done, the forests can be the natural resource forest can be well conserved. So now let us look at the sustainable management. Sustainable management of forest. Here we can take two instances. The first one, the first incident took place in 1970, which was called as Chipko Andolan. So it happened in a village called as Reni in Girwal in high up in Himalayas. So this was a place where this incident Chipko Andolan took place. Actually, it was a dispute between the villagers and contractor. Villagers, contractor. So what was the dispute here between the logging contractor and the villagers? Villagers, they don't want the trees to be cut down. because the villagers are based on the trees for firewood, that is they are plucking the branches and leaves of the trees, only the branches and leaves and other products for their use, and they are dependent on the trees. But the contractors, that is for the purpose of wood, they are permanently cutting down the trees. So once the tree is completely cut down, once the area is evacuated by cutting all the trees, so the survival of these villagers become questionable. So here the villagers, they had a clash with the contractor and they did not allow the contractor to cut the trees in that village. So the forest which is close to the village. So here finally, because due to the attempts of these villagers, the contractor withdrew his idea of cutting the trees in that place. So this news, it spread in the communities. Because you see that there in the view of contractor, if the contractor had cut down all the trees, that place is evacuated, deforestation takes place. But whereas the villagers, they are not totally destroying the trees, they are simply depending upon the products of the trees. So here, with the involvement or engagement of the people in the management of the natural resource like forest would be more beneficial and successful when compared to the other means by making some laws or selling it to that or giving it to that industrialist or contractors. So they cannot maintain or manage, simply they take out the product from the forest. So they are not bothered about the other consequences and maintenance, restoration or reforestation. So all those issues are not taken into consideration for the people like contractors or industrialists. We take one more incident, that is in West Bengal in 1972. So here what happened? The sal forest, it has got degraded a lot because of the government rules, the degradation, the people were kept away from the forest. So there is a clash between the government officials and the villagers. It led to that Naxalism. Naxalites developed in that area. So here the government changed its strategy, the forest department. So this happened in the place Arabari Forest Range in Midnapur district. So here a forest official named A.K. Banerjee, he made an agreement with the villagers. So the sal forest, it was very much degraded and useless. There is no commercial value to that forest. So he took help of the villagers. He asked the help of villagers to grow sal forest again in 1272 hectares of land. And he made an agreement to the people. He will allow the people to collect the fodder, and he will give some nominal payment to the people. They should help in the restoration of the condition, proper growth of these sal trees. So it led to a success in the year 1983. That forest area, it costed 12.5 crores. Earlier it was useless. So that was the benefit obtained by the involvement of the local people. So what this incident tells that, so what we can learn from this incident is that involvement or engaging the local people in the conservation of the forest will be successful. If you make some strict laws, if you make some kind of reserved forest and reserving certain area, without people, without the engagement of the local people, it would be not successful. So that is the point here. It has to be understood from this topic, that is the sustainable management.